Alright, we are reviewing our second topic on the final, which is factoring. So this will be the first questions on your final. The front page of your final is going to look just like that. You're going to have a factoring multiple choice, and you're going to have a factoring open-ended free response where we grade your work. Just like the last topic, one multiple choice, one open-ended. Multiple choice is all or nothing out of 3 points. The open-ended is out of 7 points based on how much you show us. Okay, we're going to first talk about the two types of factoring you're going to have to be able to do on the final. Okay, the first one is, of course, the X method. Now, what is important, and feel free to write this if you want, feel free to just make a mental note of it, but the X method is specifically for 3-term polynomials. Okay, we will use the X method if you see 3 terms. For example, if we had like 3x squared plus 8x plus 9, this has 1, 2, 3 terms. That means you would be using the X method. Okay, so X method is used for 3-term polynomials when there are 1, 2, 3 things. These 3 things are our A, B, and C, which give us our X method. Remember, the X method is A times C on top, B on bottom, and you'll divide both sides by the A value. That's your X method. Okay? 3 terms is X method. So let's go take a look at that.
Where do we write this?
Oh, you don't have to write it. If you want to, you can. If not, I'm going to come back to this page. But yep. All right, so here is your multiple choice question. It says factor completely. 3x to the 4th minus 9x to the 3rd minus 30x squared, and it is multiple choice. It does not tell us how to factor it. It just tells us we need to factor it. When I look up here and I look at my polynomial, I see 1, 2, 3 terms. When I see a 3-term polynomial and the problem asks me to factor it, your chances of X method are probably very, very high. You probably will be using the X method, which is exactly what we're going to do. Okay, so 3x to the 4th minus 9x to the 3rd minus 30x squared. Our first job always is we need to see if there is a GCF we can take out. We want to make our numbers as small as possible and take out as many variables as we can. So 3x to the 4th minus 9x to the 3rd minus 30x squared. I like to first think about, can I take out any numbers? Yeah, so what can you divide 3, 9, and 30 by? You can divide them all by 3. So we know we're going to divide everything by 3. After I check and see, okay, can I divide out a number, then I look and see, can I take out any variables? Do they all have x's? Yeah, which means I can take x's out. How many x's can I take out without going over? X squared. I can take out 2 x's from the first term. I can take out 2 x's from the second term. And I can take out 2 x's from the last term without taking out more than they have. I couldn't take out x to the 3rd because 30x squared doesn't have x to the 3rd to take out. So 3x squared is the greatest common factor. That's the most I can take away from everything. And by take away, I mean we're going to divide it out. So we need to write what's going to be left over after dividing by 3 and taking away 2 x's. So if I divide 3 by 3, I'm left with, if I divide 3 by 3, I'm left with 1. I had x to the 4th, and I took 2 x's away, so now I only have x squared. Okay, divided 3 by 3 to get the 1. we had x to the fourth, which means we had 4 x's. We took away 2 x's because it's x squared. We're left with 2 x's, x squared. Same thing. Bring down your minus. 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. I had x to the third, which means I had 3 x's, and I'm taking 2 away. So I'm left with just an x. Bring down your minus. I have 30x squared. I'm taking away both x's, so the x's are all gone, and I just divide. 30 divided by 3 is 10. Okay? That's what it looks like to take out a greatest common factor. We took out as much as we possibly can. If you do not take out as much as you possibly can, then your multiple choice answer is not going to show up. So once we are here, now we can use the x method to finish factoring. So we want to factor what's left on the inside. That 3x squared is still going to be part of our answer, but we need to factor 1x squared minus 3x minus 10. That means that my a value is 1, my b value is negative 3, and my c value is negative 10. Okay, so off to the side, I'm going to draw my x. At the top of your x method, you multiply your a by your c. 1 times negative 10 is negative 10. On the bottom, we put b, b for bottom. Our b value is negative 3. And we divide both sides by a. So we're going to divide our winner chicken dinners by our a value, which is 1. And now is the part where we usually use our factor sheet, which you will get a factor sheet for the final with all those factors, so you will get that. We are looking for 2 numbers that multiply together to give us negative 10. So multiply to the top. Those same 2 numbers need to add up to the bottom. So 2 numbers that multiply to the top, but add up to the bottom. Now, when I think of the number 10, I know I can get 10 by multiplying 1 and 10, and I can get 10 by multiplying 2 and 5. Those are the only 2 ways to get 10. But we need to get negative 10. Am I going to make my bigger numbers negative or my smaller numbers negative? Bigger numbers. Since the bottom is negative, I know my bigger numbers are going to be negative. And which of those pairs is going to add up to the bottom? Negative 3. 2 and negative 5. Those add up to negative 3. That has to be our winner chicken dinner. So we put in our x method 2 and negative 5. 2 and negative 5. Since we're dividing them by 1, they're just going to stay exactly the same. This is going to be 2. This is going to be negative 5. If there was a fraction in the denominator, we would want to simplify our fractions, but we're dividing by 1, so they're going to stay the same. So all we have left to do is write our final answer. My 2 factors are going to be x plus 2 and x minus 5. These are my factors. But we always have to include the greatest common factor. What did we take out at the beginning? 3x squared, we put that out front. So my answer is 3x squared times x plus 2 times x minus 5, which is option D. Option D. And And that is your multiple choice question on your final. 3x squared times x plus 2 times x minus 5. Okay, so your first problem will have 3 terms, and you will know that when you see 3 terms that you are going to do the x method. You're going to take out your GCF, you're going to do the x method, and you're going to find your answer. And this is all or none out of 3 points. So if you did it perfect, you get 3. You made a mistake and didn't circle D, and then you don't get 3 points. Okay. If you look at your open-ended question with the big blank in the bottom, where you're going to show all of your work, you're asked to factor something that has more than 3 terms. It has 4 terms. We cannot use the x method for a polynomial with 4 terms. You can't have an a, b, c, and a d. You can only have an a, b, c for x method. So we need a new method of factoring, and that method is called factoring by grouping. Okay, this is for 4-term polynomials. Grouping is when we factor polynomials with 4 terms. The reason it is called grouping is because we will group our polynomial into 2 separate parentheses. Okay? We are going to create 2 groups and then take out GCFs. That's why it's called grouping. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So here's the problem on your practice review. We have 4 terms, so we know right away there's no way we're going to use the x method. We have to use grouping. So let's first rewrite our problem. 2x to the third plus 3x squared plus 10x plus 15. The first step in grouping, which we are using because there are 4 terms, is to create 2 groups. We put parentheses around the first 2 terms, and then we put parentheses around the second 2 terms. Our first group is 2x to the third plus 3x squared. This is group 1. Our second group is 10x plus 15. This is our group number 2. Factoring by grouping is done just by doing greatest common factors. We are going to find the GCF of the first group, and we are going to find the GCF of the second group. If we're looking at just the first group, so we're going to totally ignore group 2, pretend it doesn't exist. 2x to the third and 3x squared. Can you divide 2 and 3 by anything? No, only 1, which doesn't count as a GCF. But what can you take away from both of them? What do they both have we can take? We have at least an x. Can I take more than 1x away? I can take an x squared out. I want to take as much as I can. If we took an x away from both, they'd still both have x's. So we're going to take away 2 of them, x squared. Okay, so we're going to take out an x squared. So let's go ahead and do that. When we take away an x squared from both of these terms in group 1, because right now group 2 doesn't exist to us, we put our x squared out front, and what's going to be left on the inside? If I take away 2 x's from the 2x to the third, I'm going to be left with 2x. If I take away both x squareds from the 3x squared, it's going to be just a positive 3. Okay, so we took out the GCF of group 1. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for group number 2. So we're going to ignore group number 1. It doesn't exist to us right now. And now we're going to find a new GCF. What can you divide 10 and 15 by? 5. Can you take an x away from both? No. The 15 doesn't have an x, so we can't take what's not there. So if I divide both of these by 5, again, a positive 5 is what we're taking out, so that's going to go out front. What's left when I divide 10x by 5? 10 divided by 5 is?
Wait, what?
10 divided by 5? 2x.
Wait. Oh, you said divided by 5?
Yeah, when we factor, we divide.
Oh, damn.
15 divided by 5 is? 3, positive 3. Once you're at this step, you should always notice a pattern. Look at these two factors. They're exactly the same, aren't they? That means that 2x plus 3 is one of our factors. So part of our answer is 2x plus 3. Okay? That tells us 2x plus 3 is one of our factors. Our other factor comes from the GCFs. Our other factor that we're looking for is x squared plus 5. This is factored. That is how you factor a 4-term polynomial with what is called factoring by grouping. You cannot use the x method for this. You would have to use grouping. So remember, on your final, your multiple choice question is going to have 3 terms, which means x method. Your open-ended, where you will show your work just like this, will have 4 terms, and you will do grouping. The question does not tell you. It doesn't say factored by grouping. It just says to factor. So make sure you know 4 terms, group. 3 terms, x method. And that's your first topic on your final.